after Miss Emily Grierson died, the whole town turned out for her funeral. The men threw a sort of respectful affection for a fallen monument. The women, mostly out of curiosity to see inside that house, which no one save the old housekeeper, a combined gardener and cook, had seen for at least 10 years. Miss Emily was a stubborn woman. You could tell that by the way she kept her house. She never updated it. It was always a big, squarish frame house that once was white and once set on our most select street in town. She never did anything to it, though she must have had money. She never paid taxes. While alive, Miss Emily was a kind of hereditary obligation to our town. After her father died, the mayor, who was a friend of his, decided she never would have to pay taxes. He invented this involved tale about how her father loaned money to the town, and the town, as a business proposition, preferred to repay it in this manner. Well, Miss Emily thought that she didn't pay taxes because of some law or rule, but we all knew it was a matter of charity. After the next generation of mayors and councilmen came along, that arrangement left them with a sense of dissatisfaction. On the first of the year, they mailed her a tax notice. February came and there was no reply. They sent her a formal letter requesting that she stop in at the sheriff's office at her convenience. The next week, the mayor himself wrote her a letter saying that he would call upon her or send a car for her. He received a note to the effect that she never went out of the house anymore at all, with the tax notice enclosed without comment. That was the last straw for the mayor. The next day, he took a couple of council members and he went to meet Miss Emily at her home.
Miss Emily, how are you? It's a lovely home. Do you know why we're here today?
I have no taxes in this town. Mayor Sartoris explained it to me. Perhaps if one of you would gain access to the city records, you could satisfy yourselves.
But we have. We are the city officials. Didn't you get my notice?
I got a paper, yes. I know you think you're the mayor, but I have no taxes in this town.
But there is nothing on record
See,
that...
Mr. Sartoris, I have no taxes in this town.
But Miss
See, Mr. Sartoris! Toby? See these people out.
The fact of the matter was that Mr. Sartoris had been dead for 10 years. 10 years. But But she wouldn't listen. She dismissed us, just like she dismissed our fathers 30 years ago when they came about the smell.
Oh, the smell. That was 2 years after her father's death, and a short time after her sweetheart, the one we believed would marry her, had deserted her. After her father's death, she went out very little. When her sweetheart went away, people hardly saw her at all. A few of the ladies had the temerity to call, but were not received. And the only sign of life about the place was a housekeeper, a young man then, going in and out with groceries. And then the smell started.
As if a man could keep a kitchen, let alone an entire house. I mean, there's no wonder it smells that bad. Mr. Stevens, there must be something.
Well, what would you have me do about it, ma'am?
Send her a note. I mean, isn't there a law?
I don't think that'll be necessary. I'm sure it's just a dead squirrel or something.
But we really must do something. I mean, I'm the last person in the world who wants to interrupt an assembly, but we've got to do something.
It's simple enough. Send her word to have her place cleaned out. Give her a time to do it by, and if she don't...
Damn it, sir! Would you accuse a lady of smelling bad to her face?
If he's not going to help us, we're just going to have to take care of this ourselves.
After a week or two, the smell went away. That was when people had begun to really feel sorry for her. It was the same sort of feeling that had started a few years earlier when her father died. You see, it got out about that the house was all that was left to her. And in a way, people were glad. At last they could pity Miss Emily.
The day after he died, the women prepared to call at the house and offer condolences and aid, as is our custom. Miss Emily met us at the door, dressed as usual, with no trace of grief on her face. She said that her father had not died. She did that for 3 days, while the ministers were calling on her and the doctors were trying to persuade her to let them dispose of the body. They were about to use the law and force when she broke down, and they buried her father quickly. None of us were prepared for that reaction. Her father had always seemed, well, so cruel. He never thought anyone was good enough for his daughter, and he scarcely let her leave that house, let alone get to know anyone.
Listen, Emily, you know he wasn't suited for you.
But I don't understand.
Emily, you are who you are, and you have a family obligation.
That's not fair.
I won't have my daughter mixing with riffraff like that. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes, Father.
Good. Now make sure you check with me before you go out again. And remember, Emily, I'm trying to help you.
I know.
The Griersons. They were never afraid to live beyond their means. And they demanded a level of respect from us that we all knew was unwarranted. Well, that did not make them very popular in town. So after he died, well, she had no real friends to turn to and nowhere to go.
Following the rather intense grief period in the wake of her father's death, Emily's demeanor began to take a noticeable lift after the arrival of one Homer Barron. I remember what must have been their very first meeting. It took place in my drugstore.
Excuse me, miss. Homer Barron.
Nice to meet you, Emily Grierson.
Nice to meet you, Emily. I'm new to town.
Here on business. You from around these parts?
Yes. Excuse me, you have to pay for that.
I will. So, apart from catching shoplifters, what do you do for a living?
Nothing really. I live alone. I used to live with my father, but he...
Oh, sorry to hear that. Well, if you're not doing anything later, I could use a hand getting familiar with the town.
Sure, when?
When's good for you?
Anytime, really.
Okay, well, we got nothing on today, so maybe, how's 3 o'clock sound?
That sounds perfect. Pick me up at my house.
Great. Wait, Emily, where do you live?
Homer picked Emily up at her house just like she told him to. They were seen around town that afternoon and again later that evening at a local cafe. It was the first of many times that they would be seen together. At first we couldn't believe that the seemingly snobbish Emily Grierson would settle for such a commoner like Homer Barron. But it soon became clear that she didn't really care what anyone thought. We were saying they're going to be getting married. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before we heard of a kind of falling out between the two of them.
Antique farm equipment.
So, Homer, I was doing some thinking about the future, and I've always wanted to get married in the spring.
Married in the spring?
Yes, and I was thinking, you wouldn't have been spending all of this time with me if you didn't want to get married.
What do you mean?
I just thought that we would, eventually...
Well, Emily, I'm just not the marrying type.
Sorry, what did you say you wanted again?
I want some poison. I couldn't find any in the aisles.
Sure, yeah, I've got some in the back. Yeah, what kind were you looking to get?
Arsenic. Is that a good one?
Yeah, it's a great one, but for rats and such,
I want some arsenic.
Okay, I mean, that's fine, but the law requires you to tell me what you're going to use it for.
Just get me the damn arsenic.
After that, we all thought that, well, maybe she was going to kill herself. But she came back to the store and purchased a man's watch. Obviously, the watch wasn't for herself. The only person we ever saw her with was Homer. So we thought that things must have worked themselves out.
Well, then we got word that she had purchased some formal men's attire. And we all thought, now they're going to get married. And sure enough, Homer was soon seen in town again. A neighbor of Miss Emily's saw him entering her home one evening, and that was the last we saw of either of them, well, for quite some time. Oh, naturally, we thought they had run off together, but we kept seeing the housekeeper going in and out of the house with groceries and other items. Then, well, from time to time, we would catch glimpses of Miss Emily looking out of her upstairs window. And that was all we saw of her for 40 years. Not until the day she died did she ever leave that house again.
Several weeks after the burial, some of us that had known Emily or were just curious to see the inside of her house, went to clean the place up a bit. The house went unclaimed after her passing, so it was left to the town to auction off her belongings. We took our time in looking around. It seemed like such a sad old place. We tried to find the old housekeeper to show us around, but he seemed to have disappeared. Eventually, we went upstairs.